I'm wildcarding next week, which means I can have fun with my one free transfer and 1.6 million in the bank, going for a 6% owned differential. In today's team selection video, we're going to take a look at how I could line up for game week 7 and the possible moves I could make ahead of the deadline. So, let's get into this. Welcome back to the team selection series where we take a look at my personal FPL team for the up and coming deadline. Of course, if you're brand new to the channel, feel free to subscribe. I make FPL videos to help you guys at home, and by just clicking that little red subscribe button, it helps the channel out a massive amount. And do not forget to like today's video if you enjoy it as well. The like goal is 10 likes, but we're going to get stuck in with the defensive lineup to start things off. Now, we'll start with the double up on Spurs, Pedro Porro and Vicario away to Leeds. Now, at the start of the season, you probably looked at this fixture and went, you know, it's a pretty easy fixture. Them at clean sheets, highly likely, but Spurs in recent fixtures have just looked a little bit off defensively, not performing at a really high standard in my opinion. I think Thomas Frank has done amazing things already at Spurs. They look an incredibly sort of improved team compared to last season, but Leeds away doesn't feel that strong anymore, especially going away to Ellen Road. It's always a difficult game, but I'm a bit more cautious on these assets now, and of course wildcarding next week, I probably won't include any Spurs defenders, perhaps even one, but that would be a midfielder or a forward in my opinion. So not as hopeful for a clean sheet in this match, and of course Pedro Porro hasn't shown great promise for defensive contributions and actually was benched last game week, so we'll have to see how that plays out, and potentially we get information from the press conferences to kind of enlighten us on what to expect. But yeah, I'm not too keen on the fixture. Similar with Virgil van Dijk with Chelsea away from home. I mean, I've said it in many videos this week and weeks before where Liverpool just, I don't know what it is, but something's not quite right. Something's missing. Jamie Carragher has spoken in detail about it. Other pundits and football experts and past players have spoke about, you know, what's going on with Liverpool. They're not exactly performing at that top level. Yes, they're grinding results and getting through it, but that kind of caught up with them, especially against a really good side in Palace. So yeah, I'm not expecting a whole lot from Virgil van Dijk and Liverpool in particular within this fixture. Of course, you're facing a Chelsea side which, you know, have struggled in recent weeks with red card, injuries, etc. But their team is full of superstars at the end of the day. So I think defensive contribution points are likely within the fixture. A clean sheet, on the other hand, I'm not too sure. So yeah, Virgil van Dijk, I think the ceiling for his points this week is pretty low, maybe at a 4-pointer, but if he comes away with the clean sheet, that'll be amazing. Of course, I don't think I'll continue with him on a game week 8 wildcard, looking to transition into a Gabriel or another Arsenal defender. Anderson against Bournemouth away from home, similar vein of conversation to be had about Anderson, similar with Van Dijk. It's a hard fixture, you're away from home, and for me, Bournemouth just look really great at home, and that does worry me with this fixture a lot. I don't think there's a clean sheet there for Anderson this week, and it's another one where I'm banking on defensive contribution points, and there's extra 2 points for playing past 60. So, you know, 4-pointers the ceiling in my eyes again, which is really disappointing from my defence. But, you know, I don't really want to waste a transfer on the defenders this week. Going into wildcard next week, I might as well go for a higher ceiling player in the midfield, which you'll see towards the end of the video when I speak about my transfers. Across the bench, there's no one I would really include within the side. You could look at Esteve instead of perhaps Anderson, but I'm not entirely sure I love that move right now. It's something I would maybe consider closer to the deadline, but yeah, that's maybe the only move I'd really consider there. But overall, that's the defence and how we'll line up for Game Week 7. We're going to move now on to the midfielders. A midfield of Ndiaye, Kudus, Wirtz, Reinders and Bruno Fernandes. We'll start with Iliman Ndiaye here with Crystal Palace at home. We all know the stat floating around about Palace. They're unbeaten in 18 games. And of course, that probably will continue with this Everton fixture. I like the fact it is a home game for Everton, and what we seen on Monday Night Football with Everton versus West Ham was not so much worrying from an Everton standpoint. It was more so West Ham actually looked a lot better under Nuno, and I think that will continue, which does put doubts on my midfielder pick for this game week, which we'll again talk about a bit closer to the end of the video, on why I think perhaps Malik Diouf of West Ham really nullified Ndiaye and could nullify other right wingers this season. I think he looked brilliant, and that was the case within Monday Night Football with Ndiaye. He was kind of just locked out the game, and I found him drifting inside more often than not, and really finding another person on that right wing as he drifted closer and closer across the pitch to transition the ball himself. I don't think we'll see that against Palace in particular. I think he'll stay close to the right wing and really try to exploit their bombing on fullbacks, but we'll see how that goes. Kudus against Leeds. Again, I think what Kudus is missing is goal threat. We've seen an offside goal, obviously, in the previous fixture against Wolves. It was miles offside. It is what it is. He wouldn't even got close to the goal if he wasn't sort of about 7 yards offside. But yeah, this is probably his last dance in my team. It's as many of these assets are, in fact, going into wildcard next game week. But finishing his time in my team with maybe an attack and return or two would be great against Leeds away. Again, very difficult fixture though. Wirtz with Chelsea away. Spoke about Wirtz a million times on the channel. Why is he still in your team? Oh my god, Wirtz sucks. I know. I fully understand that he is not a good FPL asset. He's completely flopped in a way which I didn't think he would. And of course, that's a big mistake from me, including him from game week 1. Now, do I think it's Wirtz himself not really performing at that high level? Somewhat, yes. I think it's more so Liverpool as a whole team not quite adapting, working with each other, the new signings, etc. I think Ekitike is probably the best new signing, and we'll see how obviously Alexander Isak gets on in the next few weeks as well. But yes, he will be the transfer out this game week, which we'll speak about a bit later. Reinders against Brentford away from home. I think it's a good opportunity for Reinders to come away with an attack and return. He was unlucky against Burnley, and I think another good fixture in this kind of short run of good fixtures that City have. Reinders should be able to get something from the game. I'm a bit disappointed. With Reinders in the sense that I expected his DEFCON to be slightly higher than it is on average, for him to come away with sort of, maybe an attack and return and defensive contribution points within a given game week, and we haven't quite seen too much of that lately. I don't think we'll see much of it going forward either, which does put question marks on whether I should include him from game week 8 on a wildcard or not. I still think having a nailed, well, he's not entirely nailed, but a very good sort of playing player for City who gets good minutes, not sort of immune to Pep Roulette, but he has shown great promise with great minutes. So yeah, you're not going to get that too much, especially at that price point. Bruno Fernandes, Sunderland at home. Now, of course, I support Sunderland, so I know a lot about the side and how we perform. I am worried about Bruno this week. I really am. I think United as a whole, incredibly inconsistent, and the performances haven't been at the level needed, and so forth. The manager is under extreme pressure, and I think if this game doesn't go United's way, or they don't look better within the fixture from recent games, he's gone. Amarin will go. And the conversation with Bruno then turns to, well, if Amarin goes and a new manager comes in, what's Bruno's position then going to look like? Is he going to be much more advanced? Or, for example, United going to try get Oliver Glasner from Palace and sort of deploy a similar system to what Amarin's played, but of course probably a better manager under Oliver Glasner. So yeah, I think Bruno, he's one to watch in terms of buying, selling, holding. We just can't quite figure it out yet. I think I'm closer to keeping Bruno on a wild card than I am to sell him currently. I just think there's a lot of routes to points for Bruno Fernandes, and if he does score at least one of the 2 penalties he's missed, we maybe look at Bruno Fernandes under a different light. But because of the situation at Manchester United, we have to consider when is the right time to potentially move Bruno Fernandes on. I think game week 7, we've got to give him it. Newly promoted side at home. Of course, it's going to be a difficult game for Sunderland, but we've shown great promise in the Premier League and determination. Of course, defensively, we've looked fantastic. So, yeah, difficult game for Bruno, and a consideration to perhaps move him on a game week 8 wildcard. But I think we'll keep a hold of him for now. But yes, Wirtz is definitely going to be leaving the side this game week. We will quickly show off what the team looks like without the transfers here as a full side, as I finish to talk about my forward partnership in Gyökeres and Haaland. Gyökeres finally getting on to his good run of fixtures. Looks like he is on penalties over Bukayo Saka. We've spoke about it previously in the week, that situation at Newcastle. Yes, Saka picked up the ball, but from the short span of time, we obviously waited for the penalty to happen. Saka was holding it, pointed to Gyökeres, had a kind of conversation with some of the Arsenal players. It does look like Gyökeres is still on penalties for Arsenal, and of course that was the assumption anyway, but perhaps, hopefully, within this fixture we can really nail down who's on penalties for Arsenal, because realistically it's still up in the air. They have both been on the pitch, but never together, of course, but never at a time where they've been awarded a penalty, so we don't know actually who takes them. But the assumption is Gyökeres, so happy to have him in this good stretch of fixtures, especially this week against West Ham at home. Haaland, we don't need to waste too much time talking about him. He's the captain for the game week right now. There is consideration perhaps to go a bit differential and go for Gyökeres and potentially go with my transfer in this week, which I will reveal right now. It is, of course, Bukayo Saka. Wirtz out, Saka in. I have the exact money to do so. And of course, that was due to good planning with me in the Night Managers algorithm. If you're not sure who Night Managers are, I'm partnered with them this season. They are the best performing FPL algorithm in the game. The link's in the description if you want to check them out. Use code FPLMOGS and you'll get yourself a 2 free week trial and 20% off your first build month. So definitely check that out. But Bukayo Saka is the move that was planned by the algorithm, and of course I think it's a great move. I really do. West Ham at home. Yes, we spoke about a little bit about West Ham's kind of boost in, you know, your new manager boost you always have under Nuno, and I particularly want to talk about Malik Diouf, their new signing. He's looked great. He's looked absolutely fantastic for West Ham, even though they've been quite poor under Graham Potter. But now under Nuno, we've seen a lot of promise for him against the Everton side. So yeah, I think the matchup now for Saka, maybe it's the same sort of difficulty against Diouf, regardless of the manager, but I think Nuno will implement some stronger defensive principles within the West Ham team, which could, you know, affect the Arsenal assets. But at the end of the day, Arsenal are probably one of the best teams in the world, and you know, they are going to be scoring in this fixture. I just don't know how many they will score. West Ham very vulnerable from set pieces, which of course is Arsenal's speciality in some ways. So yeah, I think Bukayo Saka's transferred in this week. He's just went over 6% ownership, and that does really surprise me. I thought more people would jump on this sort of longer fixture run and go, oh my god, Saka's back, let's get him in. But that's not the case, and perhaps that's because everyone on a wildcard 6 or just in FPL in general have moved to Gyökeres at a cheaper price point up front, who looks to be on penalties, of course, but I think Saka's still an excellent choice for me this game week. Going in to a wild card next week, of course, I just have to survive with this team this game week so I can really start fresh in game week 8 and start my sort of chip strategy going forward, which has developed greatly within the last week in particular. And I'll showcase my overall chip strategy in next week's video, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But that is how the team is looking for game week 7. Wirtz out, Saka in, with wildcard being activated next game week. Tonight I'm doing a team rating stream for the first time, so feel free to look out for that and join me as I look at your individual FPL teams and we talk through it live on stream. Of course, I always like to say a massive thank you for all of your support on today's video and the channel. If you did enjoy today's video, drop a like, and if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, do consider it for future FPL videos and deadline streams. But that is everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.